record to the cloud. Ooh, all right, you guys all should have got a recording notification, so just click OK on it and it'll go away. Oh, no problem, Luke. Absolutely. We will, yes, absolutely. Anytime you want to do that, we can chat, Luke. And I know you got spotty service, so don't worry about it. But I did want to make sure everybody got to say hi to you. So thank you for being on with us today. So what we were just kind of chatting about is having those conversations with your buyers and sellers about making those moves and what to do next. So tell me a little bit, if you guys would maybe just share with me, what are the objections that you're getting when you're talking to buyers or sellers? And when you give me your objections, let me know if it's from a buyer or seller. What are the objections that you guys are hearing when you're on the phones with your clients or in front of your clients? Andrina, I think you had one earlier. Could you share that one with me again?
Yeah. So, I mean, I reached out to somebody that had an expired listing and I asked like if they were still interested in selling, and they were just like, no, we've just decided like we're just going to stay here because if we really sell, like we have nowhere else. Like, I don't know where we would go. Interest rates are going up. And so like, that's pretty much where the conversation was going. And I just really want to be able to leverage that and help them see beyond that. Like, like yes, interest rates went up. I mean, it still depends on your credit score and everything, but like, I feel like people are so stuck in that whole, oh, credit scores, or interest rates went up.
Right.
There's no home.
So I think when I hear somebody say something like that, immediately what comes to mind for me is the Ford technique, which is where it's a rapport building technique where you use 4 things. Ford stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And those are the 4 kind of areas that you can talk to somebody about to help build rapport. And the one that came to mind for this one is dreams. So what I would ask the person to do when they've got this obstacle, the way I picture this in my brain is that the client has a speed bump in front of them, right? It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just a speed bump. It doesn't mean they can't get over it. They just sometimes don't quite know what speed to go over it or how to get over it or what to do in order to make it happen. So what I would do in that situation is ask them, and this is just off the top of my head, like I would ask them, so if you could go anywhere, where would you go? Like if you could make any move that you wanted, what would that move look like? And then I want to hear what that is. Is it I want to be closer to my grandkids? Is it that I want to downsize? Is it that I want more space? Like, because I have to work from home now and I need a better home office. Like, what's the reason? And guys, I know when we talk about this stuff, you hear me every single time come back to the why. But that's because it's what works. It's the motivator and it's the mover. It's the thing that causes emotion that creates action, right? Actions stem out of emotion. That's what it is. So you want to tap into the emotion that's going to allow them to make the move, right? So my question is, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? So Andrina, what do you think? Like, if just knowing what you know about that client, what do you think his answer could possibly be?
Where they want to go?
Yeah. What do you know about them?
I mean, they have a family, and
where is their family?
Here. They live here.
So they have kids in school when you say they have a family?
They have kids, that are in school. They live and work out here.
Okay. So again, I'm going to get back to what's the reason that you wanted to move in the first. They were an expired listing. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was an expired listing.
So what was the reason that you decided to put your home on the market in the first place? Because expired listings are beautiful. They're wonderful because these people have already shown motivation. Yeah. They have already shown that they are willing to clean out the house, get it ready, have it ready for showings, and do all of the things that are required in order to get the house sold. It just didn't work out the first time. And one of my favorite scripts is, you know what, sometimes the best homes don't sell the first time. And I specialize in selling those homes that don't always get sold the first time around on the market. So I can come by today between like 2 or 3, and I'd be more than happy to spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes with you. And together, you and I can figure out exactly what it is that needs to happen to get your home sold. And I've also and I always like to say we, because I like to use the brokerage. We've successfully been able to put lots of clients into new homes and sell their old home at the same time without having them go homeless. So I'm happy to discuss some of those strategies that my clients have used that have successfully worked to get them to the next step. Would that be worth 10 to 15 minutes of your time today? Boom.
Like
right? Like, how can somebody say no to that? First of all, I'm not even asking for an appointment. I'm not asking to do my listing presentation on you. I'm just like asking, can I see the home? Like, it sounds like it was an amazing one. Unfortunately, I didn't get in to see it before, but it's, this looks like an amazing home and it looks like it has potential to sell. And again, I specialize in those homes that didn't necessarily sell the first time. And I'd love to come by and let you, and together you and I can figure out exactly what has to happen to get that home sold.
Okay. And then just a question, like, would it be bad if I say like, oh, I specialize in homes that didn't sell the first time around? I mean,
no, why would it be?
Because I haven't sold a home. So
if you're not comfortable with that, you're also able to say we specialize in homes that don't necessarily sell the first time around. It's one of the things that our brokerage does really well is we're able to help clients whose home was on the market at one point get to sale and actually come to close. If you're not comfortable saying yourself, but saying that you specialize in it doesn't necessarily mean that you've closed all the transactions in it. It means that you're becoming an expert in it, right? It means that you have all the information needed to get them from point A to point Z. And so you do have that at your fingertips, by the way. First of all, you have me. So you definitely have all of that information that you need to make that happen at your fingertips, and you have a partner in it. And you're more than welcome to call me your partner. You don't have to call me your manager. You can call me whatever you want, like whatever works for you. That's what you call me, the janitor, if you want to, as long as we get the job done, right? but in all reality, if you don't feel confident enough in yourself saying that you're the expert in it, feel free to use the brokerage and on some of our successes, because I definitely have run my business off of expireds at one time or another. That was something I specialized in and was able to help lots of clients who couldn't get their home sold. So you absolutely have that at your fingertips.
Perfect. I mean, I used it in one script and then I was like, ooh, I don't want to get in trouble You're
not going to get in trouble. And so first off, here's what I want to say is there's no real estate jail. And if you get thrown in it, you call me and I'll come bail you out. I promise. Right? So there's no real estate jail, but there's also something that I like to go by, which is the ick factor. If it feels icky, don't do it. If you don't feel right about it, then call me and let's chat about it and let's come up with a script for you that feels good, right? It's generally only tweaking a couple words here and there that we need to do in order to make it feel good to you. And then once it does, you're able to deliver that script so much better, right?
Perfect.
We should go back though and just chat for a second about those sellers that are asking, like maybe they don't necessarily want me to come by and look at their house, right? Maybe they don't want me to come look at the house because they still really don't have a clue about where they're going to go next. So maybe that conversation with that seller instead is, you know what, I can completely understand that. I have a lot of sellers who've been in the same position and their biggest fear is becoming homeless during the sale process. So there are tons of things that we can do and lots of strategies that we can use in order to protect you during that purchase process. I'd be more than happy to sit down with you sometime and maybe spend 20, 30 minutes sharing with you some of the strategies that my clients and I have used in order to help them from getting from point A to point B successfully without becoming homeless. Would that be worth 30 minutes of your time? Wonderful. I'm available next week, next Tuesday at 2 or Wednesday at 5, which works best for you. How does that feel?
That's great. I like that.
Does any of that feel yucky?
No.
Okay. And I want to just make sure I cover too the significance of what I just did there was I took control of that conversation from front to back. I told you what I was going to do and I laid out the times that were available for me to come to you because I'm busy and people want to work with busy people, right? Yeah. And you're also, it's just your way of controlling when you're going to meet with a client. Like sometimes we will ask them, are morning or afternoons better for you? Especially for some reason, I have tons of clients that are elderly and that don't use DigiSign and need me to come to them live, not want me to, they need me to come to them live for lots of things. So I do tend to ask my clients if mornings or afternoons are better for them. I have my mornings are dedicated to the office and the team, the brokerage. my afternoons are generally what are available for client appointments. But if I have somebody that needs me in the morning, I make the adjustment. I just know that if I'm doing it during my lead gen time, I have to move that time, and it means I have to work later, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What other challenges are you guys coming up against with sellers? And so let's talk about now. Let's say you get the appointment. The seller says, yes, please come over and talk to me. What's the next step? So you come over, you come into the house. First of all, doesn't even matter whether you're there for a listing appointment or not. You get to see the house in person, right? You get to actually take a look at the house, and you know it's the first thing you're going to talk about. Like, they may talk about where they want to go first, but they have already put a mental block in their head that that's not going to happen. So they're going to love talking about their house, right? They've already gone through this with their realtor. They've thought about all the amazing points of the house, and it's almost like they're getting to show it to you like they want their realtor to show it. So this is a great time for you to just kind of, it's almost like a FISBO in that moment where you just shut up and like let them show you through the house. And as you do, you just start asking them about the process and how it went before. And, how many showings did you have? Did you get, what kind of feedback were you getting? It's the same questions that you do for the problem presentation for the FISBO, right? You're just showing them how you're able to solve those problems, and that you're the solution that they're looking for, right? So now you go through the house, you have some conversation about, like, I'm going to ask, why do you think it didn't sell? Like, this is a great home. What was the reason you think it didn't sell? And they're going to tell you all the things that were the problem with their last agent, all the reasons that they think it didn't sell. And some of them may be valid, some of them may not, but you're just going to get this brain dump from them that they're going to tell you all this information. Very seldom do they not have much to say. And then you're able to kind of, from there, you're able to sort of customize some solutions, but don't get too deep into that. Like, it's great to have that conversation for a few minutes, but you really want to get to the reason that you're there. And the reason that you're there, you committed to them that you were coming there to have a conversation about where they were going to go next. So I want you guys to really put on your seller hats right now. And I want you to think about, if you were in, and maybe you're putting yourself in the mind of one of your clients, or maybe you're really thinking about what you want to do next. Liz, if you want to talk about moving to Denver, I think we should just put, like, I don't want you moving to Denver, but like, if you want to talk about buying a condo in Denver so you have a place to be closer to your son, then let's, like, put yourself in that mindset. Andrina, I don't know what your next move is, but I'm assuming it's probably just going to be to a bigger house. So maybe you put yourself in that mindset. I know, right?
A big house.
I know, but you got those growing boys. You never know what's going to happen. I need more space. So, yes. or if not, put yourself in the mindset of a client that you've recently spoken to, right? I want you to actually create a scenario that if you could sell your house and you had a place to go, this is what you would want to do, right? And so I want you guys to, like, sort of, let's kind of role play it a little bit. And I want you to tell me, like, what, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? And Andrina, why don't you go ahead and try to answer that for us? Like, where would you go if you could move anywhere?
If I could move anywhere, I mean, I would probably have to stay here in California, but just maybe a newer community that's one floor and a bigger yard.
Oh, okay. So single story home could be important. I get it. Those little guys up and down the stairs all the time might be annoying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And we don't want any broken bones. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask this. What in the past, what were the challenges with getting the house sold?
This is as me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I want you to pretend your house was listed and it expired.
Okay. There was just,
what was the feedback that you got? Did you have lots of showings?
There wasn't that many showings.
Okay.
I feel like maybe the realtor could have done more open houses. I just felt like, it was always only appointment based.
So maybe it was an exposure issue?
Yes.
Okay, got it. And so let's talk about a little bit about, like, have you looked at any communities in the desert? And just make a couple up, it doesn't matter. Have you looked at any communities in the desert where you might want to move to?
Yeah, I was thinking over there by the University Park area.
Mm-hmm.
Their new homes, but then again, I don't know if there's any single story homes over there. I haven't really gone and looked. And then there's a new community in Shadow Hills that I saw.
Sure. Well, we absolutely know that inventory is still a little bit of an issue, but it is looking like it's starting to make a bit of a turn where there might be more coming up. And as a seller, you do have some things. It is a seller's market, and so you do have some things you can put into place and some securities that you can put in place for yourself. We can do a few things. First off, we could ask any buyer that puts an offer in on the property for an extended closing so that you have a little bit more time if you wanted to keep possession of the property for a little longer.
Okay.
Most buyers are interested in getting into the property as soon as possible, but there are plenty of people out there that are looking for investment. So it's always an option and definitely something that we can negotiate. Another option too is making any offers that come in, we can counter them and make them contingent upon you finding a replacement property within a set period of time. And what that does is gives us a window that we know we have in order to really get serious about finding that next property. And if we can get everything lined up for you and kind of get all your ducks in a row, it is a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle where you have to fit all the pieces in place, but it's definitely doable. So if you were to have one of those two solutions in place, how would that make you feel about putting your home back on the market and looking for someone to purchase it?
I would be okay with that. When we got into this home, we did a contingency sale. And when it came down to closing, we were ready to move in. And then, the seller wasn't letting us into the house because something was coming up. So that's my fear of kind of being homeless and in a hotel for 2 days with kids.
Well,
So,
and so absolutely, we can make the sale of your home contingent, but it doesn't mean that the purchase of your next home has to be.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that we can, because again, it's a more of a seller's market right now. And this is why I think the timing of this is important, Andrina, because we're actually watching the data and it's showing us that we are at the peak of the market. And so things are going to start to shift and buyers are going to start to have more power. And as buyers have more power, you're going to have less leverage with those buyers. So what I think we should do is get everything set up so that we set up some searches, start looking for the property that you're looking for. And the challenge is that some of them aren't going to be interested in taking your contingent offer. If we find one now, we will happily write on it, but we may not get something until your property is in escrow. And then it'll be a little bit of a dash. And to be candid, in this case, it's not necessarily a selection process. Like, you don't get to choose the house in this market. It's
Yeah.
about getting you into the next property that's going to help you build your equity and is going to help you build equity faster because you're going to be in a higher price point over in these other
Correct.
properties. So
Correct.
really think about that. You want to do this before interest rates peak, before the amount of buyers that are in the pool are removed, because it's definitely going to happen once as interest rates continue to go up. I had somebody yesterday come into my office, and he was a vendor from a store next door to us. And he said, "Oh my gosh, if interest rates get up to 5%, there's no way I'll buy anything." And my head almost exploded because that's still a very good interest rate, but it's actually just the attitude of buyers out there right now that if it gets that expensive, they just won't do it. So understand, we are sort of in a time crunch that we need to get we need to get you out of this property to get you into the next one so that you can continue to have that equity growth that you're looking for, right?
Correct. Yes. No,
Okay.
that's right. And I don't want to lose any money on my home, especially sale prices are going up in this area. So I got to
Yeah,
take.
we're starting to see those prices peak off right now. So not that I'm expecting it to dip. Again, I don't know what could happen, and there are lots of unsure things in the world right now that we just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But
Exactly.
the market still looks like it's fairly strong. However, it does, based on the indicators that are out there, it looks like we're peaking. So this is definitely the time to jump off the fence and get going into that next piece. And, again, with all the securities you have, if it all doesn't work out, you still get to keep your house, right? Like with
Yes.
everything we're going to get put in place, you're not going to go homeless. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves in, is not allowing that to happen to our clients.
Yeah. And at least you're reassuring me of the protection that I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then can you tell me maybe what your process would be of listing my home? What would you do?
Well, so I'm big on communication. I communicate with my sellers every Friday. So the first thing that we do is we set up a communication schedule for ourselves, and you tell me how you like to be communicated with. Do you like phone calls or email or text? What's best for you?
I prefer phone call or text.
Perfect. So what I'll do is every Friday, I'll send you a text message and I'll let you know like what my schedule is for the day, and we'll have a quick little chat, or we can set a time if you prefer to do that. If that works for you, if your schedule is more flexible, then I'm happy to just call you that day and we figure out a time to talk. And then what I'll also do is send you weekly updates on everything that's happening. The first couple weeks, what we like to do is get the listing contract signed, and then we prep the house for sale. So we get the professional photography taken. Even on a $500 or a $250,000 home, I'm going to do professional photography. So we'll have a photographer come in. Depending on what we need, we might have them come back to do some night shots. I have had clients say that they have their own photos of the property, but I promise you this, my photographer makes it look amazing and it makes it look shiny and new. So we definitely want to use those photos, and that cost is mine. You don't have to pay for that. And then we'll also, before the photography, we'll go through and just stage the house, make sure that we remove anything that's personal that, you know, you don't have to take everything out, but some personal things we'll want to remove and get you kind of prepared to start packing to move. And then we get the property on the market and we get open houses scheduled, and we, you know, set up that entire schedule, and we can communicate through all of that as to what that's going to look like. I heard you say it was appointment only last time. Would you prefer that we have a lockbox on it and it's available to be shown anytime, or how do you like those showings to happen?
I'm okay with the lockbox. You know, really, I only need like a 15-minute warning. Somebody's coming, and I can go leave the house whenever somebody needs to come, you know. If
Oh,
I'm
perfect. That's easy. That's easy then. Yeah, we'll absolutely do that. It'll either be me or one of the other people in my office. Every now and again, if I'm unavailable, I might ask somebody else to reach out to you. But for the most part, you'll get a text message from me anytime that we need to schedule a showing, and I'll let you know. And I'll wait till I hear back from you before I give somebody the approval to come in.
okay, perfect. I'm okay with
Awesome. So I'll go ahead and stop it there. That, like, honestly, that at that point led into the listing presentation. I normally in that appointment wouldn't be, I don't want to say it's not my goal, but it's not where I would go to automatically, right? I'm literally there to help them figure out what the next step is.
yeah.
But normally it's exactly what does happen. As soon as you figure out what the next step is and you help them feel secure in making that move, that they're not going to lose their other home. That was the only thing. That was her speed bump. Her speed bump was, I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to get rid of this one until I know what the next thing is. And I just let her know that there's a way to do that, but you actually have to get committed to making the next step in order for that to all happen, right?
Yeah.
So it also lets me test her a little bit, because you guys hear me say this all the time. I never want to let my commitment outweigh yours. I never want you to sell your house more than you want to sell your house. I never want you to buy a house more than you want to buy a house, right? I never want you to date me more than you want to date me. It works with every relationship, I promise. I'm recording this, but but it really does. And I never want to let that commitment outweigh yours. So I'm only going to be as committed to you selling your house as you are. I had that challenge early on in my career, and I think we all have had it at one point or another, where we have wanted someone else to sell or do something more than they have wanted to do it themselves, right? And so that's just one thing that you and I have to really be careful at gauging, is how we use our energy. We always expend the initial energy. That's our job, right? Our job is to meet clients, do listing presentations, show property, write offers, and close escrows. Like, those are our jobs. We always put out the initial investment, but please make sure that with every step of that process, the client is giving you some investment back, some investment of their time or their energy. Because if they're not willing to invest time or energy into a $500,000 purchase, I really want you guys to think about how you're spending your time with someone, right? Like, I think that's just very important to think about. So I think that was a really good role play, but I want to hear, and I want to hear, are there any other challenges you can think of as you're having these conversations with clients? Liz, do you have anything you want to add to the mix as we're having this conversation? Maybe she stepped away too. All right. Okay, I'm going to do this then. I'm going to share my screen, and I am going to go over some of the slides. Again, I've only had a few moments to go through this, so I don't have, I don't want to pretend like I can, I can teach the class that was taught the other day, or yesterday, but I at least want to go over some of this because as I was looking at these slides, I really thought some of this information was interesting. So first thing I want to just mention is that for those of you who are a member of California Desert Association of Realtors, for my CDAR members, there is a member benefit called Desert Dynamics, which is an app that you can download that gives you all kinds of market data. And they had a class on it yesterday where the gentleman who runs Desert Dynamics kind of went through some stats and went through some of his industry observations. So I just wanted to share some of those with you. And I just thought these were interesting, that inventory remains too low, but will likely increase. Sellers have less control than they had only a month ago, and buyers sense the market is at or near a high point and are suddenly skittish. And I think it's very true, as I've been hearing from escrow. I've been hearing from John, who's running running all of our transactions. And as I'm even hearing from some of the agents out there, that sellers they do have less control. They aren't able to demand the things that they were able to demand a couple months ago. And so really your sellers need to think about that. Those people that are on the fence, this is the peak of the market. Do not wait. You are going to be on the backside of it. I think that's your strongest argument right now for why somebody should make a move, is that they do not want to be on the backside of the peak saying, why didn't I move sooner? Right? So many people did it last time. And so it's just something to think about, something that you can add to your arsenal. Some sellers sense a peaking market and want to hear from you. Can you still get them top dollar? Can you make their sale easy? And they see the same signs, i.e. mortgage rates going up and open houses, etc. And that's something that's very important. And we just talked about it. As you're talking to these sellers, you just need to remind them that we are successfully getting our clients top dollar in this market, and we are able to make the sale in this transition from one property to another as easy as possible, as long as we have great communication throughout the process and we always understand what each other's expectations are. We can make this easy for you. It doesn't have to be as painful as me moving my mom into a nursing home, right? They see many of the same signs. The Coachella Valley is no longer just a resort market. Many are relocating here for the lifestyle afforded by remote work options. And our LA, Orange County, and San Francisco, as well as Oregon and Washington State are all our largest feeder markets. And that's where people are coming from. And I'm still hearing so much about people coming from San Francisco and buying those homes in Palm Springs. And even the rest of the Coachella Valley, out in Cathedral City and Rancho Mirage as well. And those prices still going up because it's still so much more affordable than where they are, and more attainable even than where they are in San Francisco and LA. So something to think about for those buyers that are looking to make the move. There are lots of great reasons why they should be doing it, and interest rates going up is probably one of the best reasons. Again, it's not as much of a panic for some people because the prices are still great, but what's going to happen is you'll get people that'll get skittish, like they're saying here, that they just maybe are worried that they're again on the wrong side of the peak. And all we have to do is just keep figuring out what that why is, what their individual personal why is. Why do they want to make the move, so that we can help move them away from the pain and towards the pleasure, right? We always talk about that. People will move away from pain faster than they will move towards pleasure. But we use the pain point of buying too late, of interest rates going up and not being able to afford later, in order to get them to move. It will help them move much faster than the appreciation that they're going to get on their property. Again, we want to get them to move away from that pain as opposed to towards the pleasure, because it's more effective. Your opportunity for success is greater than ever, and there will be less competition in the future. This is so very true. And I've been saying it for a while, that those who are strong in the business, when the market changes, this is your opportunity to pick up market share, right? And so what will happen is, as the business, I don't want to say it's been easy for buyers agents, because it absolutely has not, but the business has been plentiful, right? And so what will happen is, as business gets less plentiful and as it gets more difficult for buyers and sellers, I don't want to say more difficult, but as it starts to balance out a little bit, what'll happen is some people will get out of the business, right? They will go into another form of employment. And what it does is it leaves more of that market share for those of us who remain. So for those of us who can make it through these little adjustments and shifts, they happen all the time. There's no bad market. It just depends what market you're in and how you adapt to it as to how well you're going to be able to do in it. So let's go ahead and scroll down here. I did see something else about, again, the 80-20 rule does not apply. It's more of a 90-10 rule. Okay, this was some stuff I thought was interesting. GPS production. This is Greater Palm Springs MLS production and people. So last year, this is the 12 months ending March 31st. Last year, there were 23,934 units had closed. And this year it's at 22,714. That's down 5.4% year over year. So there are less homes closing in the last 12 months than closed in the previous 12 months by 5%. And again, this is all just indicating what we've just been talking about, that we've hit the peak and we're potentially going to be in a contraction at some point. We're not there yet. There's nothing to be scared about. It's just watching the market and being able to read these numbers. You want to be the local economist. That's what you want in order to share all this information with your clients. You really want to be able to get into some of this stuff and dig in and understand it. The count of active agents went from 2,400 up to 2,598. So look at that. We have 7% more agents in the business this year than we did last year at this time. Again, watch for that in the next 18 to 24 months. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that number. Again, the volume, this is interesting. We had 5% fewer units closed, but we were up 13% year over year in volume in what closed. We were at 13.8 billion and it went to 15.9 billion. So even though fewer homes closed, because prices have gone up so significantly, we're still seeing more volume in closings. The average sale price, again, this is just indicative of the total volume closed, that went from 575 to 698, and that's across the entire Coachella Valley, including everything. That number would be higher if we went down to our 9 cities, and it would be even higher if we went down to just Palm Springs. And so this is also one of those things where you want to run some of these numbers and getting into this app. Again, this is one of those, the app that I told you guys I was going to take a class on so I can help teach it to you. But this app will give you some of this data just in your hand at a listing presentation or anytime you're talking to a buyer, and these things can really help. So I'll help in the next couple of weeks get this coordinated so that you guys can get this app on your phones and we'll all understand a little more about how to use it. The average closed units per active agent is down 10%. So in 12 months ago, the average agent had closed 8.2 deals in that year, and now it's down to 7.4. However, the average volume closed is up from 4.9 million to 5.3 million. So just, again, all this stuff is just good information for you to have. This is based on, so the last one we looked at was 12 months. This is year to date. So from January 1st to March 31st, we went from 65, and I'm sorry, this is year to date. So this is the previous year to date. So last year from January 1st to March 31st for the first quarter, we had 6,584 sales, almost 6,600 sales, and we're down 24% year over year. So here we have down 5%. In the last quarter, we're down 25%. That's just, again, an indicator that you want to be watching. The count of active agents went from 16. This is in the last quarter. So it's up year over year for how many agents, for the agent count. It's up 7%, but it's down 3.5% in the last 3 months from 1608 to 1553. Again, just watching, so there's already some people starting to get out of the business because so much of the feeding frenzy has slowed down. And you'll see those numbers again, you'll see those increase. The total volume closed went up. Again, we expect that to go up, but it went from 4.2 to 4.3, 2.7 year over year increase. And that's, again, just for Q1. Total closed units is down. This is interesting, from 3.5 to 3. And again, that's just for the quarter. So the average agent has done half a deal less in the first quarter of this year than they did last year. That for me is a big indicator, because that piece of it, I think about where everybody was last year and the conversations I was having with people, and it was just such a mad rush. And to see that first quarter, we've already on average dropped a half a deal off of every agent in the desert is a little bit concerning to me. Average sale price is still, again, up from 635. It's up to 813. And this is on Q1 of this year, up 21%. And your average closed volume per active agent went up from 2.3 to 2.5. So they did half a deal less, but they did $200,000 more in volume. So that's just, again, indicative of where prices are. This little report is, again, available to you guys. I'm going to show you more in the next couple of weeks of how to access some of this stuff and how to be able to read some of it. But this is another piece that I thought was interesting. This came from this gentleman that his referred buyers are under contract after 6 months. So what, in other words, he's referring business out, and those clients are now starting to come under contract, which means that more houses are becoming available, which means less buyers are in the market. And again, it's all kind of indicating what we were just talking about. There are more open houses in almost all markets, including Palm Desert. More open houses being listed, which means what was happening is that you guys were taking listings and you would go to schedule your first open house. I hadn't scheduled an open house, I think, in over a year, because every property I put up, within a day, I knew I was going to be getting 7 offers on it. I had one client ask for an open house, and I was like, I don't think you need one. And she's like, do what you want. And we had 7 offers by Friday. So there was no need to do it. But we're seeing more of those. That, again, means homes are staying on the market for a little bit longer. We're having the opportunity to do an open house. We've got this. These are just some indicators, or some of his observations. Only the most motivated buyers will buy in the coming months. And that means I need for you guys, as you're having conversations with your buyers, really start talking to them about their motivation. Don't let your motivation outweigh theirs. If they're not committed to the buying process, be very careful about how you're putting them in the car, or even just putting yourself in the car to go run around and go do showings. You want to make sure. I just had a conversation with an agent the other day that, like, once we got done, I was like, well, you just told me what needs to happen. This is what they need to write it at in order to win the out of the 5 bids. But the buyer wasn't willing to do it. And I'm like, what you're telling me is that the buyer's not committed to this process. They are you are more committed than they are. And so we can move on and find another property, but are they going to get more committed on the next property? Right. So all of the time, and this isn't like a simple one and done question. This is all of the time you have to be asking these questions and really trying to peel that onion and get to what the real crux of the issue is, right? More observations. They seek lifestyle and have fewer assumptions of appreciation. They have a long time horizon for their ownership. So this is interesting. Again, when we start to see a little bit of a contraction, you do start to notice that these buyers are not looking for as much of a quick flip where they just want to get in for a few years and then get back out. There is more of a long-term approach to their ownership. Raging inflation is a huge wild card. Real estate, this is very interesting, because real estate is the #1 hedge against inflation. When you buy and own a home, as inflation increases, so does the value of your home. And so one thing that we are going to have to watch is that real estate appreciation typically runs ahead of inflation, and future appreciation will likely fall to a flat rate or around that of inflation. It's not a bad thing. It means that real estate is still a great investment, right? Because I just told you, I'm going to start putting more money into my 401k. I'm saving for my long-term care, all of those other things that I talked about. But I also still have in my head, I need to buy my next property, because my next property is what's going to help me get past some of this inflation piece, right? It's going to continue to increase. And what we're hearing here is worst case scenario, that future appreciation will likely fall to a rate that is at or around that of inflation. It still means that you're appreciating with inflation, which means you're not losing, I can't necessarily say that for my 401k account right now. And so it's, again, just something really, really smart to think about. We remain in a socially significant housing shortage, which is absolutely true. politicians cannot legislate the housing market. We're not going to get into CAAB 1771 right now, but we will get into that. But when they try, they failed, then double down and wonder what happened. So yes, it's absolutely, we have tons of issues with our politics and housing and how all of that works. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks, I will be, and several of us will be in Sacramento with CAR having meetings with our legislators about home ownership and housing and rent control and all of those interesting conversations. So we'll be doing that, and it's part of what's important. But just remember that when we're talking about real estate and when we're talking about inflation, owning a home is the greatest hedge against that. We do need to be the voice of reason for our buyers and our sellers as the industry professionals that we are. So I really want to encourage you guys all to sit down and really think about what your script is. I just had Craig Michaels sent me another script for a video that he was going to do the other day. I thought it was for a phone conversation, so I was critiquing it one way, and then once I realized what it was for, I actually removed all my critiques from it because it was amazing. But if you guys are wanting to type a script for yourself, even just to have an elevator speech so that when somebody asks you how the market is, you have an answer that's maybe just 2 or 3 sentences, but encourages them to ask you more questions, and you have some great questions to ask, some leading questions to ask them. When somebody asks me how the market is, I say, it's great. What is it that you are interested in doing? Because whether you're a buyer, a seller, or an investor, there's different parts of the market that can affect you positively and negatively. It really depends on what you're looking for. Although sometimes when you ask that question, like, they don't necessarily have the answer, they haven't thought about it. So I like to have sort of pre-thought that through for them, and at some point inject into that conversation, well, or would you be a buyer or a seller in the market? And if you can ask that question, you can kind of gauge the conversation based on what their needs would be. So that is some of the great information I found out of here. I'm going to just kind of scroll through some more of it here so you can see. If you guys, what I'll do is when we're done here today, I'll go ahead and send these slides out to you. There's all kinds of great information. There's also information in here on the Desert Dynamics publications. So if you guys are interested in getting more of this, it's sort of like the housing report, but a little something, it's a pocket version because of the app. So I will send the slide deck out to everybody today. As a matter of fact, I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Is this an app already, or is it like in the makings?
It's an app. I'll be candid, I don't know how to use it. And as a matter of fact, I don't even know how to download it. And I really wanted to go to that class yesterday, but I don't know how I missed it, but I didn't get to it. So they have a gentleman that actually teaches on this specifically. I just need to set an appointment and have him go over it with me. And then what I'll probably do is invite him to come in and do a Zoom, one of our Friday Zooms. He'll do that for us and kind of give you guys all instruction on it, because it is so powerful. It's really, really powerful. I'm a little embarrassed that I don't quite have it yet, but it just hasn't happened. I'll just use the heart monitor as an excuse. Anyway, all right. Well, I think that's it. Do you guys have any more questions for me? Andrina, I think you and Luke are the only ones left. Do you have anything for me?
No, that was pretty much, I mean, you answered everything that I needed today.
Great. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Wow.
Luke, did you want to say anything before we go?
No, sorry. I was in the car earlier and it was like really loud, so I didn't want to talk, and it was just crazy.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm just glad to see that you're here with us.
Yes. I just wanted to chime in and just see what about all your scripts and stuff like that. I wasn't really here to talk about Joshua Tree escrow today. I just wanted to hear your thoughts and inspiration and all that fun stuff. And I'm glad I did join this, and I got a lot of insights.
I'm so glad to hear that. But yeah, you're always invited to talk about Joshua Tree escrow.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day. Andrina, are you and I going to get together later today? I still have you on my calendar. Do you want to have that appointment?
It's up to you. I mean, honestly, my question was going to be what like my challenge was, which was already addressed.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you maybe take the time that you and I would be meeting together today and type your script for how you want to have that conversation the next time that you get that on the phone with a client, and maybe come up with a couple different scenarios. And if you email that over to me, I'll review it, maybe send you back some critiques, and maybe we'll even chat about it on the phone. That's kind of how Craig and I did it the other day, and it worked out really well. I sent him back some critiques, and then we got on the phone and actually had a conversation about it.
Okay, I'll type it up here in a little bit then.
All right, perfect. You guys have a great rest of your day and have a great
Thank
weekend.
you. You
Alright.
too. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye.